The Great Hall of Nexus Prime was silent. 1,000 alien eyes watched the small human woman standing alone in the center of the chamber. She looked so tiny compared to the massive beings that surrounded her. Some were made of crystal. Some had scales. Some floated in the air without bodies at all. But all of them stared at her with the same cold expression. Una Park, ambassador of Earth, kept her back straight and her hands steady. She had practiced this moment 100 times. She had told herself she would not show fear. But now, standing before the rulers of 300 worlds, she felt her heart beating fast in her chest. The High Arbiter Vorin rose from his throne. He was tall, almost 3 meters high, and his body was made of glowing blue crystal. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire chamber like thunder. Human Representative Vorin said, "The Galactic Council has watched your species for 50% of your years. We have seen you spread across your solar system like fire. You have built colonies. You have built warships. You have done in 50 years what most species take 1,000 years to accomplish." Una opened her mouth to speak, but Vorin raised his hand. "This is not praise," he continued. "This is a warning. Your species is dangerous. You grow too fast. You take too much. The Council has decided that Earth must be controlled before it is too late." A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth, beautiful and blue, floating in the darkness of space. Then red lines appeared around it, like chains wrapping around a prisoner. "Earth will surrender 70% of its resources to the Council," Vorin announced. "Earth will destroy all military vessels. Earth will accept guidance status under Council supervision. You will have no vote. You will have no voice. You will obey." The words hit Una like physical blows. Guidance status. She knew what that meant. A dozen species had accepted it before. None of them had ever risen again. They became servants, workers, slaves, in all but name. "And if we refuse?" Una asked. Her voice was quiet, but it carried through the silent hall. Vorin's crystal face showed something that might have been a smile. "Then Earth will be removed. Not conquered, removed. We have done it before. We will do it again." Una felt cold, removed. The word was simple, but its meaning was clear. Extinction. "I need time," she said. "I must speak with my government." Vorin nodded slowly. "You have 7 solar cycles. Use them wisely, human." Una bowed her head and walked out of the chamber. Every step felt heavy. Every breath felt difficult. But she did not run. She did not cry. She waited until she reached her ship, until the doors closed behind her, until she was finally alone. Then she sat down and let out a long, shaking breath. She had 7 days to save her entire species. 12 light years away, Admiral Taiho Kim received the message. In the basement of the United Earth Defense Command, headquarters in Seoul. The room was cold and filled with screens showing the positions of every human ship in the solar system. There were 187 of them. Against the Council's thousands, they looked like toys. General Hannah Lee stood beside him, her face hard as stone. Director Minho Beek sat in the corner, reading the message for the 3rd time, as if hoping the words would change. 70% of our resources, Minho said quietly. "They want to starve us. They want to break us," Hannah corrected. "A starving population does not fight. A population without hope does not rebel." Taiho said nothing. He stared at the screen showing Earth, the same image that Vorin had shown in the Council chamber. His home, his people, everything he had spent his life protecting. "We cannot win a war against the Council," Minho said. "The numbers are impossible. They have been conquering worlds for 40,000 years. We have been flying between stars for 50. Then we surrender?" Hannah asked. There was anger in her voice. "We give up everything our ancestors built? We become their servants forever." "I am just stating facts," Minho replied. "Facts do not care about pride." Taiho finally spoke. His voice was calm and low. "My grandfather fought in the last war on Earth. He told me something I never forgot. He said that when you face an enemy who wants to destroy you, You have two choices. You can die on your knees, or you can die on your feet. But if you are lucky, if you are brave, if you refuse to give up, sometimes you do not die at all. Turned to face his colleagues. His eyes were steady. The council expects us to kneel, he said. They have never met a species that refused. They do not know what humans are capable of when we have nothing left to lose. Hannah leaned forward. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting we fight, Taiho said. Not the way they expect. Not a direct battle we cannot win. We fight smart. We fight dirty. We make them pay for every inch of space they try to take. Minho shook his head. Even if we could hurt them, they would retaliate. They would destroy Earth. And we make sure they cannot, Taiho replied. Minho, I know about Project Silence. I know what Yunji and her team have been building. Minho's face went pale. Project Silence was the most classified program in human history. Only 12 people in the entire world knew about it. It is not ready, Minho said. It has never been tested on this scale. Then we make it ready, Taiho said. We have 7 days. That is enough time to change the course of history. He looked at both of them, his gaze firm and unwavering. I am not asking for permission. I am asking if you are with me. Hannah did not hesitate. I am with you. Minho was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed and nodded. God help us all. I am with you too. Taiho turned back to the screens. Somewhere out there, the greatest military force in the galaxy was preparing to crush humanity like an insect under its foot. They had thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, technology that humans could barely understand. But they did not know what was coming. Earth was about to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. The world leaders argued for 3 days straight. Some of them wanted to surrender. Some of them wanted to fight. Some of them just wanted more time to think, as if time was something they had plenty of. But while the politicians talked in circles, the soldiers and scientists worked in silence, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. In a facility that did not officially exist, Dr. Yoonji Choi had not slept in 48 hours. Her eyes were red and her hands were shaking from too much coffee, but she refused to stop. The device in front of her was humanity's only hope, and it was not ready. The Silence, they called it. A weapon that could reach across space and shut down any ship's power systems instantly. No shields could stop it. No armor could block it. It worked on principles of quantum mechanics that the Council had never explored. Humanity had stumbled upon the discovery by accident, but Yunji had spent 10 years turning that accident into a weapon. The range is still too short, said one of her assistants, a young man named Ji Seok. We can hit maybe 400 ships at once. They are bringing thousands. Then we make the first 400 count, Yoongi replied. The rest we handle the old way. She looked at the weapon, a machine of wires and crystals and glowing energy cores. It was ugly. It was unstable. It might not even work. But it was all they had. 12 light years away. Ambassador Yuna Park was playing a very different game. The Council had given her quarters on Nexus Prime, a small room with a single window, looking out at the stars. They expected her to stay there, to wait quietly while they prepared to destroy her world. But Yuna had never been good at sitting still. On the second night, she slipped out of her room. The corridors of Nexus Prime were quiet at this hour. Most of the Council representatives were sleeping or resting in their own ways, but not all of them. She found Kale in a small garden near the station's outer ring. He was Vendari, a species that looked almost human except for their silver skin and 4 arms. His people had joined the Council only 300 years ago, which made them very young by galactic standards. Ambassador Park Kale said when he saw her. His voice was soft and careful. You should not be here. If the Council finds out we are meeting, they will not find out, Yuna said. She sat down beside him on a stone bench. Unless you tell them. Kale was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, a sound like wind chimes. I have been watching your species since you first left your planet. You are strange creatures. You fight among yourselves constantly, yet when outsiders threaten you, you become one people. You fear death, yet you charge into battle singing. You are weak, yet you never seem to understand that you should give up. Is that a compliment? Una asked. It is an observation. Kale looked at her with his large silver eyes. The council is afraid of you. They do not admit it, but I can see it. That is why they act so harshly. Fear makes old empires do terrible things. Una leaned forward. I need information, Kale. I need to know what the council is planning. Kale hesitated. What she was asking was treason. If he was caught, his entire species would be punished. But then he thought about his own people, and how they had been forced to kneel 300 years ago. He remembered the stories his grandmother told about the proud Vendari fleet that had been destroyed in a single day. He remembered the shame that still lived in every Vendari heart. There is an enforcement fleet, he said quietly. 3,000 ships. They left Council space 2 days ago. They will reach your solar system in 5 of your days. Una felt her blood go cold. 2 days ago? But they gave us 7 days to decide. They never intended to wait for your answer, Kale said. The fleet was ordered before you even arrived at Nexus Prime. This was never a negotiation, Ambassador. It was an execution notice. Una stood up quickly. She needed to warn Earth. She needed to tell Taiho that the enemy was already on the way. Why are you telling me this? Kale stood as well. Behind him, 2 more figures emerged from the shadows. One was Thresh of the Morvani, a being with scales like emeralds and eyes like fire. The other was Nero of the Pale Ones, a creature so white he seemed to glow in the darkness. Because we are tired, Kale said. Tired of watching the Council crush every species that dares to dream? Tired of pretending that this is justice? If your people can fight back, even a little, it will give hope to all of us who have been living in fear. Thresh stepped forward. We cannot fight with you openly. Our people would suffer. But we can give you information. We can tell you where the Council is weak. Nero spoke last, his voice like whispers in an empty room. Win or lose, Ambassador, your species has already changed things. The Council has never faced anyone like you. Whatever happens next, the galaxy will remember. Una looked at the 3 aliens standing before her. 3 species that had every reason to stay silent, to protect themselves, to let humanity fall alone. But here they were, risking everything to help strangers. Maybe, she thought, humans were not as alone as they believed. Thank you, she said. I will not forget this. None of us will. She ran back to her quarters and activated her secret communication device. It was small, hidden inside a button on her jacket. It could send a single burst transmission that the Council's sensors could not detect. She typed 7 words and pressed send. Storm coming. 7 days. They lied. Across the galaxy, Admiral Taiho Kim received the message. He read it 3 times, then called Hannah and Minho into his office. The fleet is already coming, he said. We have less time than we thought. Hannah's face hardened. Then we stop preparing, and we start fighting. Taiho nodded. He pulled up a map of the solar system on his screen. Forget defense. We cannot defend Earth against 3,000 ships. Instead, we go on offense. We hide our fleet in the outer system. We wait for them to get comfortable, and then we hit them where they least expect it. Looked at his old friends. The 2 people he trusted most in the universe. Tell Yunji to finish the weapon. Tell the fleet commanders to scatter and go silent. And tell everyone to say goodbye to their families. He paused, his voice heavy. Some of us are not coming back from this. The storm was coming, and humanity was about to meet it head-on. The Council fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system like a wall of death. 3,000 ships, stretching across the darkness of space in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed with weapons that could crack planets in half. Their shields could stop anything humanity had ever built. High Commander Velis stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. He had commanded fleets for 600 years. He had crushed rebellions on 40 worlds. He had never lost a single battle. This would be no different. Scan the system, he ordered. His voice was like grinding stones. His body was massive, covered in thick brown armor that was part of his skin. The Valorian people were born for war. And Velis was the greatest warrior they had ever produced. His officers worked their controls. After a moment, one of them looked up with confusion on his face. "Commander, we are detecting no enemy ships." Velis frowned. "None at all?" "None, sir. The human fleet appears to have ... vanished." The other officers exchanged nervous glances. Velis felt something strange in his chest. Not fear, exactly. He did not know what fear was, but something close to it. Uncertainty.
Oh.
"They are hiding," he said finally. "Cowards always hide. Begin the advance. Scan every moon, every asteroid, every shadow. Find them and destroy them." The fleet moved forward, sliding through space like a predator hunting prey. Far away, near Jupiter's frozen moon Europa, Captain Doyan Yun waited in silence. His ship, the ESS Resolve, floated dark and dead in the shadow of the moon. All systems were off, except for basic life support. Even the engines were cold. They were invisible. Around him, hidden in the darkness, were 43 other human ships. Small groups scattered across the outer solar system, each one waiting for the signal. "They are moving past Neptune," Lieutenant Somanha reported from her station. She was young, barely 30 years old, but she had spent 5 years studying every council battle in recorded history. She knew their tactics better than they did. "How long until they reach optimal range?" Doyan asked. "For hours, Captain." Doyan nodded and looked around at his crew. 200 men and women who had volunteered for this mission. They all knew the odds. They all knew many of them would not survive. But not one of them had backed down. "Get some rest," he told them. "Eat something. Call your families if you want. In 4 hours, we write history." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Yangji stood before her creation. The silence was ready. Its power cores glowed with soft blue light, and the quantum matrices hummed with energy that should not exist. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Admiral Taiho's voice came through her communicator. "Yungji, the fleet is in position. Are we ready?" She took a deep breath. "Yes, but Taiho, I need you to understand something. This weapon has never been tested at this range. I do not know exactly how many ships it will disable. I do not know how long the effect will last. And I do not know." She paused. "I do not know if it will work at all." It was silence on the other end. Then Taiho spoke. "Do you believe in it?" Yunji looked at the machine. She thought about the years of work, the sleepless nights, the hundreds of failed experiments that led to this moment. She thought about her parents in Seoul, her sister in Tokyo, her niece who was only 5 years old. "Yes," she said. "I believe in it, and that is enough. Wait for my signal." For hours passed like 4 lifetimes. The Council fleet moved deeper into the solar system. They had spread out now, hunting for the hidden human ships. Their confidence was growing. The humans were clearly too afraid to fight. High Commander Velis allowed himself to feel satisfaction. "Pathetic," he muttered. "They do not even have the courage to face us. Send a message to the Council. Tell them this will be over within the day." At that exact moment, Admiral Taiho Kim gave the order, beneath the ocean. Yunji pressed a single button. The silence reached out across space like an invisible hand. It touched the Council ships at the speed of thought, passing through shields and armor as if they did not exist. And wherever it touched, systems died. On 400 ships, lights went out. Engines stopped. Weapons failed. Life support flickered and struggled. In an instant, more than 10% of the Council fleet became floating metal tombs. High Commander Velis stared at his screens in shock. Red lights flashed everywhere. Ships were going dark across his entire formation. Officers screamed reports at him, but he could barely hear them over the chaos. "What is happening?" he demanded. "What weapon is this?" No one could answer him, and then the human fleet struck. "Captain." Doyan brought the Resolve out of hiding like a shark rising from dark water. His weapons were already firing before his ship was fully visible. Around him, 43 other human vessels did the same. appearing from shadows all across the battlefield. They did not attack the healthy ships. They attacked the disabled ones. Missiles and plasma bolts tore into holes that had no shields, no weapons to fight back. Explosions bloomed in the darkness like flowers of fire. Lieutenant Soman called out targets with cold precision. 3 degrees port, 2 disabled cruisers. Their reactor cores are exposed. Doyen nodded. All weapons, fire. The Resolve's guns spoke, and 2 Council cruisers died. Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated again and again. Human ships darted through the chaos, striking at disabled enemies and running before the active ships could respond. It was not a battle. It was a hunt. High Commander Velis finally recovered from his shock. All ships, focus fire on the attackers. Ignore the disabled vessels. Kill the humans. But the humans were too fast, too unpredictable. They did not fight in formations like proper fleets. They fought like wolves, attacking from all sides and vanishing before counterattacks could land. The battle lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of fire and death and screaming metal. When it was over, humanity had lost 47 ships. The Council had lost 612. Among the dead was High Commander Velis himself, killed when a human destroyer rammed his flagship at full speed. The pilot knowing he would die, but refusing to let the enemy commander survive. The remaining Council ships retreated, broken and terrified. On Earth, people stared at their screens in disbelief. They had expected defeat. They had expected death. Instead, they saw the impossible. They saw victory. Admiral Taiho watched the battle reports come in. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the overwhelming realization of what they had accomplished. "We did it," Hannah said beside him. Her voice was barely a whisper. Taiho shook his head. "No, we survived. The Council still has thousands more ships. They will come back, and next time they will be ready for us." He looked at the stars on his screen, the vast darkness that held enemies beyond counting. "This was just the beginning," he said. "The real war starts now." Across the galaxy, on Nexus Prime, High Arbiter Vorin received the news of the battle. His crystal face showed no expression, but inside, he felt something he had not experienced in 10,000 years. Fear. The humans had drawn blood, and the entire galaxy was watching. The news of Neptune's edge spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. On 1,000 worlds, beings of every shape and form gathered around their screens to watch the recordings. They saw the Great Council fleet arrive in perfect formation. They saw the human weapons strike like lightning from a clear sky. And they saw the impossible happen. They saw the Council lose for 40,000 years. No young species had ever defeated a Council enforcement fleet. The older races had taught the younger ones that resistance was pointless. The Council was eternal. The Council was unbeatable. The Council was the natural order of the universe now. That order had a crack in it. On the planet Vendara, Kale watched the battle recording with his people. When the last Council ship retreated, the Vendari did something they had not done in 300 years. They cheered on the Morvani homeworld. Thresh stood before his elders and spoke words that would have been treason just days before. "The humans have shown us the truth," he said. "The Council can be hurt. The Council can be beaten. And if we stand together, the Council can be changed." The elders listened. They did not punish him. On Nexus Prime, the Council was in chaos. 3 species announced their withdrawal from the Coalition within the first day. They claimed they wanted neutrality, but everyone knew the truth. They were afraid to be on the losing side. High Arbiter Vorin called an emergency session. His crystal body glowed red with anger as he addressed the remaining representatives. "This is a temporary setback," he declared. "The humans were lucky. They had a weapon we did not expect. But luck does not win wars. We will send a second fleet, larger than the first. We will crush them completely." But the representatives were not as confident as before. They whispered among themselves. They looked at Vorin with doubt in their eyes, and in a small cell beneath the Council chamber, Ambassador Yuna Park waited. They had arrested her immediately after the battle. "War criminal," they called her. enemy of galactic peace. She would be executed publicly. A message to any species that dared to defy the council. But the execution kept getting delayed. First by one day, then another. The council was too busy dealing with the political crisis to carry out the sentence. On the third day, the door to her cell opened. Kale stood in the doorway, his silver skin glowing in the dim light. "Ambassador," he said quietly, "you need to come with me, now." "Is it time for the execution?" Una asked. Kale shook his head. "No, it is time for something else." He led her through hidden passages, past guards who looked the other way, to a small ship waiting in a private hangar. Thresh and Nero were already inside. "What is happening?" Una asked. Nero answered in his whispering voice. 23 species have broken from the council. Not to join Earth, but to demand reform. The coalition is splitting apart. Vorin is losing control. And in his desperation, Thresh added, he has done something terrible. He has ordered the activation of the Stellar Lance. Una felt her heart stop. The Stellar Lance. She had heard of it only in rumors. A weapon from the ancient wars, capable of destabilizing a star. If it was used on Earth's sun, the entire solar system would be destroyed. "How long do we have?" she asked. "The weapon needs time to charge," Kale said. "Perhaps 10 of your days. But the Council is also sending another fleet. 8,000 ships this time. They will keep Earth occupied while the Lance prepares." Una closed her eyes. Even after the victory at Neptune's edge, humanity was still facing extinction. "I need to warn them," she said. "I need to tell Earth what is coming. We'll get you to a secure communication point," Thresh said. "But Ambassador, there is more. The location of the Stellar Lance installation, we can give it to your people. If they can destroy it before it fires, then we have a chance," Una finished. She looked at the 3 aliens who had risked everything to help her. "Why? Why are you doing this?" Kale placed one of his 4 hands on her shoulder. "Because, for the first time in 40,000 years, someone has given the galaxy hope. We will not let that hope die." The message reached Earth 6 hours later. Admiral Taiho read it twice, then called his commanders together. 8,000 ships, Hannah said when she heard the numbers. "We barely survived 3,000. "And the Stellar Lance," Minho added. "Even if we defeat the fleet, they can still destroy us." Taiho nodded slowly. "Then we do not just fight the fleet. We fight everything at once." He pulled up a star map on the main screen. "The Lance is here, in the Corvin system. It is heavily defended, but not by warships. They think no enemy would ever get close enough to threaten it." "They are wrong," Hannah said. There was fire in her eyes. "I need you to lead the mission," Taiho told her. 50 soldiers, maximum. Small team, fast insertion. Get in, plant the charges, get out, and the fleet. How do we hold off 8,000 ships? Taiho turned to another screen showing the positions of human forces. We do not fight them directly. We hit their supply lines, their fuel depots, their communication relays. We make every step they take cost them something. He looked at Yunji, who had come up from her underwater facility for this meeting. "Can you improve the silence? Give it more range, more power." "I can try," she said. "But I need help. Someone who understands tactics, who can tell me exactly how to use it most effectively." "I know just the person. Lieutenant Somenha. She is the best tactical mind in our fleet." 3 days later, Somen arrived at the Pacific facility. She had barely slept since the battle, but her eyes were sharp and her mind was racing with ideas. "The Council fights in predictable patterns," she told Yunji as they worked together. "They always protect their command ships. They always maintain formation. They always assume superior numbers mean victory. So we attack where they do not expect," Yunji said. "Exactly. And we do not try to win. We try to survive long enough for General Lee to complete her mission." Far away, Hannah Lee and her team were already moving through space. Their ship was small and dark, designed to avoid detection. Inside, 50% of Earth's best soldiers prepared for the most important mission in human history. Remember, Hannah told them, "We are not here to fight. We are here to destroy. Get to the reactor core, plant the charges, and get out. Nothing else matters." A young sergeant named Junho raised his hand. "General, what if we cannot get out?" Hannah looked at him steadily. "Then we make sure the mission is complete before we fall. The future of humanity depends on us. Every life on Earth is counting on what we do in the next 48 hours. The ship flew on through the darkness, carrying its precious cargo of brave soldiers toward a target that most of the galaxy believed was untouchable. Behind them, the Second Council fleet was already entering the solar system. 8,000 warships, ready to finish what the First Fleet had started. And in the Pacific Ocean facility, Yunji and Soman worked without rest, building a weapon that might save them all. The final battle was coming, and this time there would be no second chances. High Arbiter Vorin stood before the controls of the Stellar Lance. The ancient weapon hummed with power that could tear stars apart. In a few hours, it would fire. Earth's sun would collapse, and humanity would become nothing more than a memory. This is the only way, Vorin told himself. They left us no choice. But even as he spoke, doubt whispered in his mind. Across the galaxy, species were watching. They had seen his enforcers defeated. They had seen young races break away from the Council. And now they would see him destroy an entire civilization because he could not control it. Victory or genocide. There was no middle ground left. On the bridge of the Resolve, Captain Doyan Yoon watched the Council fleet advance. 8,000 ships, spreading across the solar system like a plague. His own fleet was scattered in their hiding positions, waiting for orders. Admiral Taiho's voice came through the communication system. "All ships, this is command. We cannot defeat this fleet. That is not our goal. Our goal is to survive long enough for General Lee to complete her mission. Hit and run. Strike and vanish. Make them chase shadows while we buy time." Doyan looked at Lieutenant Soman beside him. She had returned from the Pacific facility with new targeting data and a look in her eyes that he had never seen before. "Is the improved silence ready?" he asked. She nodded. Dr. Yunji outdid herself. "The new version can disable twice as many ships. But we only get one shot before they adapt, then we make it count." The battle began. Human ships emerged from hiding all across the outer solar system. They struck at the edges of the Council fleet, hitting supply ships and communication relays. Explosions lit up the darkness as human missiles found their targets. The Council fleet tried to respond, but the humans were too fast, too scattered. Every time they concentrated their forces in one area, attacks came from another. It was like trying to catch smoke with their hands. But the numbers were still against humanity. Slowly, ship by ship, the human fleet was dying. On the ESS Resolve, alarms screamed as enemy fire tore through the ship's armor. Doyan gripped his command chair as the deck shook beneath him. Shields failing, Soman reported, "We cannot take much more of this." Doyan looked at the tactical display. The Council flagship was 300 kilometers away, surrounded by a wall of escorts. "If you could just get close enough, Soman," he said quietly. "I need you to get to the escape pod." She turned to look at him. "Captain, someone needs to tell them what happened here. Someone needs to survive." He reached out and touched her shoulder. "That someone is you." Soman's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. She understood. "It has been an honor, Captain." "The honor was mine, Lieutenant." She ran for the escape bay. Behind her, Doyan turned to face his remaining crew. "All hands," he announced. "This is the captain. We are going to ram the enemy flagship. Anyone who wants to leave, go now. No shame, no judgment. Not one person moved. Then let us show them what humans are made of." The Resolve accelerated toward the Council flagship, ignoring the weapons fire that tore at its hull. Escape pods launched from its sides, carrying the wounded and those too young to die. But Doyan and his bridge crew stayed at their posts. The Council flagship tried to turn, tried to run, but it was too big, too slow. The Resolve struck it at full speed. driving deep into its hull before both ships exploded in a ball of fire. Captain Doyan Yoon was gone. But so was the Council's command ship, far away in the Corvan system. General Hannah Lee and her team breached the outer defenses of the Stellar Lance installation. Alarms howled through the corridors as they fought their way inside, killing guards and destroying security systems. "Move, move, move," Hannah shouted. Plasma bolts whipped past her head as she ran. 3 of her soldiers fell, then 5, then 10. But the survivors kept pushing forward. They reached the reactor core. It was massive, a sphere of pure energy that pulsed with deadly light. The lance was almost charged. They had minutes left. Sergeant Junho was already planting the explosive charges. His hands moved with desperate speed. Blood ran down his face from a wound on his forehead, but he did not stop. "Done," he shouted. "Charge is set." Hannah looked at the timer. 30 seconds. They would never make it back to the ship. "Everyone who can move, run," she ordered. Now, 20 of her soldiers were still alive. They ran for the exit, carrying their wounded. Hannah stayed behind with Junho and 2 others, covering their retreat with their last ammunition. The timer hit 0. The explosion was visible from orbit. The Stellar Lance installation tore itself apart, its ancient weapons firing wildly into empty space before going dark forever. The weapon that could kill stars was gone. Hannah Lee did not survive. But her mission was complete. On Nexus Prime, High Arbiter Vorin received the news. The Lance was destroyed. The fleet was in chaos. And across the galaxy, species that had been silent for thousands of years were now demanding change. His crystal body flickered with unstable light. For the first time in his endless life, he did not know what to do. Then the doors to his chamber opened, and his own guards walked in with weapons raised. "High Arbiter Vorin," announced a voice he recognized. It was Kale of the Vendari, speaking through the communication system. "By the authority of the new Galactic Assembly, you are under arrest for crimes against sentient life." Vorin stared at his guards, beings who had served him for centuries. "You would betray me?" The guard commander shook his head. "We are not betraying you, Arbiter. We are following a new order." The Council was falling. In the solar system, the remaining Council ships received word of the political collapse. Many of them simply stopped fighting. Some even contacted human vessels and requested talks. Admiral Taiho ordered a ceasefire. The battle was over. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Una Park stood in the Grand Assembly Chamber on Nexus Prime. But the room looked different now. The old Council thrones were gone, replaced by equal seats arranged in a circle. Representatives of 300 species sat together, young and old. Powerful and weak, Una had been chosen to speak for humanity. She looked around at the faces watching her, some familiar, some strange, all waiting to hear what she would say. "The Council told us to kneel," she began. "They said we were too young, too aggressive, too dangerous to be free. They sent fleets to crush us and weapons to destroy our star." She paused, letting the words settle. "But we did not kneel. Not because we wanted war. Not because we thought we were better than anyone else. We refused because we believed that every species, no matter how young or small, has the right to determine its own future." She looked at Kale, at Thresh, at Nero, at all the allies who had risked everything to help humanity survive. "We did not do this alone. Species who had nothing to gain and everything to lose stood with us. They reminded us that courage is not something humans invented. It exists in every heart that beats, in every mind that dreams of something better." She took a deep breath. "Earth does not seek to rule the galaxy. We seek to change it. We propose a new order, one where every species has an equal voice, where disputes are settled with words instead of weapons, where the strong protects the weak instead of crushing them." She held up her hand. "This will not be easy. We are all different. We all have our own histories, our own fears, our own ambitions. But if we can overcome those differences, if we can build something together, then maybe the galaxy can become what it was always meant to be." She smiled. The first real smile she had allowed herself in months. A family, the Assembly voted. The result was unanimous. The old Council was gone. A new galactic assembly had taken its place. 10 years later, Admiral Taiho Kim stood before a memorial on Europa. The names of the fallen were carved into black stone, thousands of them. Soldiers, scientists, civilians, all who had given their lives so that humanity could survive. At the top of the list was Captain Do Yeon Yoon. Below him was General Hannah Lee, and beside their names were the words that Taiho had chosen himself. They did not kneel. Soman stood beside him, now an admiral herself. Yoonji was there too, her hair gray now, but her eyes still sharp. Ambassador Yuna had come all the way from Nexus Prime for the anniversary. Do you think they would be proud? Soman asked quietly. Of what we have built? Taiho looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, species that had never known freedom were now choosing their own paths. Worlds that had lived in fear were now building new futures. And it had all started here, with a small planet that refused to give up. Yes, he said. I think they would. At the base of the memorial, carved in stone that would last forever, was a simple message. They told us to kneel. We chose to stand. And in standing, we taught the galaxy that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to surrender to it. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had done something far greater. They had changed it forever.